Morning everybody. Well, in this virus pandemic, I think anxiety levels are going to be quite high, and this is an opportunity for me to start some of the work that I've been doing for quite a long time on my website doyoupanic.co.uk. I've also written a book, but that's for people to choose if they want to take this further. The website is a free service, and so is the advice I give. And I think it's really important that people have a chance to understand and benefit from the experiences I've had and what I've picked up going along. Okay, so first thing to do is, just on this chart here, is to go through some of the processes that take place mentally that may lead to anxiety. And if we start with zone 1, these are very normal momentary thinking processes, the positive and negative. So a very simple way of giving an example of that is if you are worried about an exam, that might be what we consider a negative thought or feeling. Okay? These can't be helped, so these things come along in life, and as you'll see as the detail starts to come into these videos, it's a process what I would refer to as subconscious. Okay, the challenges we go through in life, they often just come into us, and it's how we deal with them that's essential. A positive thought could be something like being excited about going to a football match. Okay? So that covers thoughts and feelings. Okay, so now zone 2. This is where the trouble starts. And that's where the dog starts to throw up. Okay, so zone 2 is when we encounter stress. Now, how we deal with stress is essential. And what I'm going to outline now is actually what happens when we actually start to think or feel stressed. And this can be a turning point for a lot of people. Excuse me a second. So let's take that example of the exam. So if you have a thought comes in, it might be when you wake up. And when we wake up, we tend to have very active minds. We may have a thought that, oh, I'm dreading doing this exam. And what happens then is what I refer to as a spike. Okay, so in zone 2, we jump into zone 2 from zone 1, having that negative thought about the exam. And that spike, the best way to typify that is we actually almost like snap out of a daydream. Okay, we suddenly become aware of what we're thinking. And that's the mind's natural process of protecting us. Because when we start to feel stressed and tense, and anxiety can be the curse of the intense persona, that we spring out or snap out of that and become aware of what we were just thinking about. And that's the essential part of my work, is that this is all about past tense. By the time we recognise our stress, it's actually just happened. So doing anything else, anything more to fix it, is where the problems start. Okay, so we jumped into zone 2. Now zone 2 is when we may feel anxious. And obviously we've had that thought, we're now aware of it about dreading doing the exam. And then what we are at is what I would say is a conscious point. Okay, so zone 1. Is subconscious. We can't help it. Just those thoughts come in, negative and positive in life. Zone 2 is actually subconscious as well. So by the time we arrive at zone 2, we can't do anything about that. Okay, it's our body's natural way of bringing us out of the stresses from zone 1. But when we've arrived at zone 2, which is that awareness point of what we were just thinking about, then we have a choice, which is a conscious choice. Now that choice is either to go into zone 3, which is the panic zone. And when I talk about panic, I don't just mean a dog runs in front of the car when you're driving and you go, oh, and you've got an automatic response, which is to panic. No, the panic I'm referring to, which the website covers in great detail and as well as the book, is that we're talking about over-controlling our stresses or overthinking them. And that's the trap that so many panic sufferers fall into. They go into zone 3 unnecessarily, which is a conscious zone. Okay, and obviously what I'm going to tell you we're aiming for is to stay in zones 1 and 2, which is subconscious and it's momentary. And there's not a big issue attached to it. So let's go back to the example. Obviously we're using these 3 zones now as a framework. So zones 1 and 2 are subconscious, they're automatic, and they just happen in our moment. Now, we've had the thought, which is a discomforting thought. So we're going to put here, discomfort. So we are saying in life that we are going to suffer discomfort. And there is a phrase, no pain, no gain. Well, it's true. You know, we have to go through the experience of life to actually get better at it. So there is discomfort in zone 2. Now we've automatically arrived at zone 2, and the next thing is we want to get rid of that discomfort. It's not a nice feeling, and for the person who maybe likes perfection, they might then go into zone 3, which is to consciously force themselves to try and control that discomfort. Okay, very important that we're aware that zone 3 is forced and we are consciously doing it because we've snapped out of that negative feeling about an exam, we're aware of it, but then we force our mind or tense our mind to try and find a solution to control and ease that discomfort. Okay, so this is the conscious area we have to avoid. So we're at zone 2 at the moment, and the advice I give is quite simple. It's not that we have to do anything, and that's where we keep unwittingly going into zone 3. It could be sufferer thinking, okay, my therapist has said I have to say relax, self-talk. I've had that discomforting feeling and I just say relax, relax, and I might be saying that in the head. But what that does is actually that is part of the conscious forced process of making an issue of that thought. Don't forget, if we're staying in these 2 zones, everything is low issue and momentary. So we've had that thought which has made us feel the discomfort into zone 2. I call that, this area going into there is a spike when we snap out of that thought and experience discomfort. Now that's only a brief experience, that spike, it's only a brief experience of discomfort, but then we have a choice. And the choice is, do we then continue to investigate that discomfort and go into zone 3, or do we do no more? And do we allow that automatic spike in our subconscious to bring us out of negative thoughts? And whilst it might be a brief spell of discomfort, by doing nothing else and not forcing ourselves consciously back into that thought, we then allow ourselves to go back into zone 1. Now, zone 1 is basically allowing ourselves to flow onto other thoughts. It's often referred to as letting go. And obviously, for a panic sufferer, they might even think and interpret it, letting go, as something they have to do. So when they're at that discomfort area there, when they're aware of their thoughts, they may think, I've got to let go. And they might internalise and have forced analysis in the mind about having to let go, which actually turns out to be making more of an issue of a thought that should have come and gone. Okay, so we're not going to go much more today about the principles. There will be a lot more to come. So if you do like this channel, please subscribe, please share it, because it's a free service. It's to try and get out there, give people the benefit of my experiences and the experiences of the people that I advise, and just throw a little bit more light on it through this video service. In terms of going forward now, I can bring in questions that I get, what I call an advice column. On my website you'll see there's a lot more detail, but I'll finish off today by just saying this area here, if we want to give it another framework, is that if you imagine, okay, that's not a very good picture, but that's an open hand. So that is a calm state of mind where we're flowing. And positive and negative thoughts, calm flow doesn't mean perfect, by the way, it's negative and positive. So those negatives and positives are momentary, low issue, and we just flow through them calmly. So that's the hand that's open, zone 1. Zone 2 is when we might start pulsing. And that might be because we've had that thought about the exam, and what it does is it's a brief spike of tension, okay, that tempts us, and for those who like control, this will be a really strong temptation, tempts us to then go into zone 3, which is to clench that fist, which is to force our minds to think about it further. Okay, so if you just remember, this is, okay, not a very good picture again, but that might be the pulsing, and then this, okay, is the fist clenched. Giving you this framework will help you for future videos. Okay, so when you think, I'm at this stage or I'm at that stage, that's what I'm doing now, all we're trying to do is trying to give you the understanding to know what thoughts you're going through and how to deal and process those thoughts. That's the essential thing for recovery. Yep, certainly life's not perfect, it is imperfect and can be very stressful at times, but it's essential we flow, and that's what this video is about. Okay, bye.